Evening, everyone. The elders have asked me to do a report on the trip that we made at the end of October and beginning of November, and I want to begin by thanking the elders for the financial aid that they accorded us, and through them, all of you also for that same aid and for the encouragement and the advice and the different things we said to us at before and after. I'll get back to that here in a little bit. The trip, we know you were interested in the trip, and we know that you have been interested in hearing about it. And so let's just go ahead and try to get something going here. I know that this program presentation is on the back computer twice, so if we're just going to be here a couple hours longer, then anyway, we'll see what happens. I don't see it up in the back yet. Here we go. Somebody said, didn't know that France had changed its flag. But there are just, there are 4 flags there. So that's what that's all about. That's just an introductory presentation flag there. Okay, so something else I wanted to say also. Forgot what it was. I knew there were 2 things. I'll get back to it. We left Lyon on the, Boise, there we go. On the 21st of October, and we went to Denver, first stop in Denver, and we have some kids who live in Colorado Springs, our first daughter and her husband, and their kids, and they brought up 2 of their children to Denver to have a meal with us there. There they are. That's Tammy and Matt, and then 2 of their boys, Shepard and Matthias. That's not in Denver, that's in front of our house, but anyway, that's a good picture that I had of the 4 of them. We had a good meal together. Then they went back to Colorado Springs, and we spent the night in Denver. Then the next day, we went from Denver in the afternoon to Frankfurt the end of the next morning. I wanted to say a couple things about that flight. You know how you can follow your plane sometimes on the screen in front of you? And usually, to go from the United States to Europe, you go way up and you go way down. This thing went straight across the Atlantic. Straight across the Atlantic. There was no, a straight line. And I figured later, I didn't ask anybody, but I figured that must have been because we had the jet stream behind us, because we were flying at 700 miles an hour at 41,000 feet. So yeah, we were moving right along. It was about an 8-hour flight, something like that. We landed in Frankfurt then and spent several hours there waiting to catch the next plane. And the next plane then went to Lyon. I want to show you. I don't have a pointer, do I? That's what I'm pointing. We used to live way up there in the left-hand corner, right about where the buildings end, almost on the left side at the top. That's Villeurbanne, where we used to live. There is in that picture a population of about 1.7 million people. That's the population of Idaho, right there in that picture. So, things are kind of compact, tied in. We arrived in the evening time. Am I doing that, or? It seems to be running on its own. Is there an automatic thing on this? What was off? Well, the clicker is, I don't see any lights on it. Oh, I see. Here we go. I got it. I think I got it, Dana. We'll see. It's been a while since I was up here. Okay, we arrived in the evening time, 6:15 or something like that. It was raining hard. It rained the whole time we were there in Lyon, in France. They were having bad flooding up in the north, just sort of like they're having right now in the northeast of the United States, and they're still having it now. This week I heard some more about that bad flooding. So, in Lyon, let me show you this. That's where Lyon is situated in the country of France. And to give you a bit of a perspective, France is a little bit smaller, but almost the size of Texas. So if you're looking at Texas here, you've got Louisiana over there in Italy. You've got Arkansas in Germany. You've got, Kansas, Oklahoma, Kansas up there in the north. And you've got Mexico down there in Spain. That's how close it all is. That'll give you some perspective about the city of Lyon. Then I'll give you another map that gives some perspective here in a little bit. Okay, and then we went off that time. Okay, we were met by one of the leaders in the church, Christophe Valquet and his wife, Verline. That's a pretty typical picture of Christophe with his mouth open. He talks a lot, but he has a lot of good things to say. He's a wise man. He's a great teacher. We stayed with this couple for the first week, and Verline is a legendary cook, so we ate very well. I'll show you some pictures of that later on. We spent a couple of days getting used to the time change, and then on Friday night, did a lot of talking during that time with them, and the whole week we were with them. Then on Friday night, we participated in a prayer meeting by Zoom, which is an interesting experience. Excuse me. There were more people there than that, but that's the picture that I took as we were getting ready to start. This young man who's in the bottom is the one who took a lot of the pictures that I'll be showing you this evening. His name is Loic. Loic came to see us a few days later at the house, and he wanted to pray in person. He was having a problem at work, and wanted to pray about it. He only had like 15 minutes. He said, I have to run 15 minutes-ish, so let's pray. He wanted to start, he wanted to finish. Well, he prayed for about 30 minutes. And all I could say at the end was, because he handed me his phone as soon as he was finished. I was bowing to pray. He put his phone right under my face here so that I could see that it was late and it was time. So all I essentially said was, Lord, hear the prayer of your servant. Amen. That's about all that I said. But he's a good guy. These are all great people. This is a picture of our church building. It's that little round business at the end of that big apartment building. Boy, I wish I had my pointer. Oh, I might. Okay, let's see. Oh, thank you, Dave. Right, okay. So you see this part here, that's this. It's built on the end of this apartment building. You have the meeting place here, and you have a couple classrooms there, and it's the same thing on the other side. The whole meeting area, the whole place, classes and everything, is 85 square meters. That's 915 square feet. Not very big. So they're tight in there, and they're looking for a place to get out, but they're very tight. They can hardly afford for now to find a bigger place. So that's something we might be praying for. I might have mentioned, too, that right here, under here, you can't see it here, can't see it there either. Right there is the name of the church. It's too small under there. And when an inspector came to check to see if we were a cult, he decided we are not. But he did say while he was there, you could have made your sign a little bigger. Yeah, we should have. All right, so that's where we meet. The first Sunday, I didn't have any responsibilities. Pam and I were just there enjoying being in worship with our brethren. You can see us in the back there, in the back by the window. There's the other half of the congregation. You can see sort of how big the room is from that same perspective, standing in the middle and shooting both directions. Christophe is the one who taught the class and did the speaking, the preaching that service also, and did an excellent job in both. He's really a very good teacher. Afterwards, we went to the Valquet house for a potluck meal. And when the French do a potluck meal, they do a potluck meal. I mean, they bring a lot of good stuff. So we spent the afternoon sitting around tables like this, and I don't know if you can see much about that, but enjoying our meal and enjoying talking together. It was a very special time. And at the end of the afternoon, we sang Le Seigneur vous bénisse, which is the Lord bless you and keep you together. That was a special time. The next day, the Valquets took us out to what's called Beaujolais, which is just north of Lyon, a part of France that Pam and I have always enjoyed visiting. This is a picture I took a few years ago of that area. You can see it's a wine country. It's very beautiful. We were going to see his mother. And I'll show you her picture here in a minute. I want to ask you now, how can you tell that Christophe Valquet, this young man I showed you a while ago, wanted to be a fighter pilot when he was younger? How can you tell? Oh, it stopped. Okay. We didn't get to the end of the trees. This is a typical national highway in France with the trees on both sides like that. It's a very beautiful arrangement. This is his mother. When I showed her, I sent that picture to her, and she said, I'm not very good looking, am I? But she's a sweet lady. She's not a member of the church, but she's kind of what shall I say? Kind of a free thinker spiritually. She's very wary of committing to the church. And so Christophe and his family and everybody in the church there, they pray for her often. She visits the church when she comes to see them. So she's a subject of prayer. She's a hoot, as you can tell, too, in that picture. We had a meal at a restaurant. It was raining hard. We were on a kind of a terrace with a plastic cover. And so this was a view that we had. So we didn't mind the rain. We had a really good view. It was a little, I don't know the name of this chateau, but it was there to accompany us for our meal. The next day, by the way, Christophe's mother that we just saw just spent a few days in the hospital with COVID and heart problems. So since we were there, this couple he's the oldest member of our congregation. He's 90, Franck Pitaluga, and his wife Mireille. She can't come to church at all anymore, and he only comes when he feels he can leave her long enough to be there. And since we were there, he has fallen in the stairwell of his apartment building and broken his hip. He's in a hospital now. I don't know how much experience you have with apartment buildings, but in the apartment buildings in France, at least, there's a light that you touch a button and it comes on. After 2 minutes, it goes off. And you have to find that little glowing button on the next landing to turn it on again. Well, it went off while Franck was going up. And he was pulling his little caddy with groceries that he'd gone to buy. And he lost his balance and off he went in the dark. So that was not a very good experience for him. But this couple has been Christians for many years now, very faithful to the church, very helpful in many ways. And Franck is one guy I love to listen to him pray. He says the expression often, he says, Lord, remember that we are dust. And that just kind of shows you what kind of a man he is. Okay, after we left them, we spent quite a few hours with them. We went to the home of another member who's pretty much homebound. She's in a wheelchair. Her name is Christiane. This was a Tuesday night study. There never are very many people there. There were only 5 or 6 there that evening. I taught a class with some questions that are important for Christians to think about. We had some good discussions around the living room, her living room. And as you can tell, one person present did not want her picture taken. The next day after that class, then we went to stay for the rest of the time with this couple, whose names are Ekel and Mirlande. Ekel and Mirlande are really, they have the hugest hearts, those two. They love people and they love to help people who are hurting. They are members, besides being members of the church, they're also members of a couple of charitable organizations in town. And they do a lot of visiting of sick people and helping people in all kinds of ways. They've even had in their home a family that had come from Ukraine and that was trying to set up in France. And they took them into their home and kept them there until they could get their papers ready. And they do a lot of that sort of thing. So now that I've shown you Christophe and Ekel, I'll show you the 3 men who are the leaders in the church. Christophe on the left, Ekel in the middle, and then Arlen Hendricks, who's an American missionary, with his wife Pamela. I'm sorry that picture's kind of fuzzy, but that's the only one I had of them, the last picture I had of the 2 of them. So these are the men who are leading the church now. And as I said before, while we were there, we had a lot of discussions with these men. That's what I wanted to say before we started. When we go to France, I'm not setting up in a town and people are not coming for days to hear me speak like they are Richard. I'm not a movie star like Richard is. In previous trips, I did a couple of seminaries each time, but this time that didn't work out. So what we just did was sit down and talk to the men and talk to them about what's going on. And that was only a part of an ongoing discussion, that had begun before we left, and continues obviously right now. Okay, so we had another prayer meeting by Zoom, and I wasn't the only person there, but I took that picture. And then on the Saturday of that second week, we had a meal with this couple we've known for 35 years. When we moved to Lyon in 87, after being in Grenoble for 11 years, we moved to Lyon, and these were some neighbors in our apartment building. And our children then spent a lot of time together. His name is Bernard. Her name is Norca. Norca is from Peru, and Norca is from Cusco, Peru. So one of my dreams in life is to get these two Norcas together. That would be so neat if we could get them together. They're both beautiful people. This is a great couple. We've known them for 35 years. And our kids growing up together, our youngest daughter and their daughter have been friends forever. This is a teenage picture of the two of them. They're both mothers of families now, and they still keep in touch. I think that's a good thing. I wanted to show you, we went to a supermarket. I saw this cheese counter. This is where you order the cheese by cut. You know, you say, I want so many grams. I want you to look at this cheese counter. Enough said, huh? And this is a cheese, packaged cheese aisle. It goes all the way down past where that lady is standing. I wanted to show you this. It's a little fuzzy, but that's yogurt, and that's both sides of the aisle, and it's all the way down to the end. Yogurt. And here is the butter aisle. Butter. So, you know, the French love their butter and their yogurt and their cheese. On Sunday morning, that next Sunday morning, then I was privileged to teach the Bible class, and then I preached a sermon during the sermon time. You can see that the technical equipment is kind of basic, but it works pretty well. Up on the screen, you can't see those words, I suppose, but I had Isaiah 55 up there, my ways are not your ways, and so forth. I haven't been used to speaking French in public for a couple hours straight for a long time, so it was kind of rough, but I think I made it through okay. Afterwards, I would stand around and talk like we do here, like all good brethren do. It's always fun to talk to people after worship. I want to show you a couple of pictures. This elderly sister was brought by her son. Her name is Jocelyn. Her son's name is Eddie. She can't come to church usually, but he kind of, I think he kidnapped her or something and brought her to church so she could be there so we could see her. She's in very bad health, and I was surprised to see her, but it was good to see her there and to see Eddie bringing her in. And then this bunch of guys, and we have known these people for 50 years. On the left is Claude Arnel, and then you've got Jacques Nanette, and on the right is Robert Lim. Those guys we met in Paris in 1973 when we went there for my studies. And so we've known them ever since and done a lot of work with them ever since. And they're still good friends, and they're still great guys, all of them. Lots of memories in that picture. So the next day, we took a rental car, and we drove up to Colmar. Colmar is up in the northeastern section of France, which has been kind of passed back and forth between France and Germany for decades, centuries, probably. I wanted to show you, I ran across this map the other day. I don't know, can you see that okay? Right. This is not comparing France to Texas anymore, but I wanted to show you how close cities are in Europe. Here, this would be Paris down here. Lyon would be right about here. So look, here's Paris, here's London. Brussels, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, Zurich, Munich, Prague, Berlin, Hamburg. All of that would fit in Texas if you set it up that way. So that gives you a kind of a clue about how easy it is. Well, it's easier anyway for folks in Europe to learn other languages because they get chances to move over there and be with those people a lot more than we do here. Okay, so we were in Colmar. In Colmar, a lovely couple, a wonderful couple is working hard. Their names are Aaron and Betsy Palmer. And their children are Celeste and Harmony. They've been there 5 years, and they're doing a really, really, really good work, brethren. The morning after we arrived, then Aaron met us and took us out to coffee. And I'll tell you about this picture next, but first thing he did was he took us to coffee. That's what you do when you meet the whites. You take them to coffee. And there was a man, as we were walking toward the cafe, there was a man standing looking at some guys working on the street. And he said to us, "That's the mayor of Colmar." And I said, just off the top of my head, "Have you ever talked to him?" I thought he'd say, "Oh, no." He said, "Oh, I did talk to him just last Thursday." I said, "Oh, really? So what did you talk to him about?" Well, as we found out, Aaron is really involved, and the church there is really involved in helping people who've come from Ukraine as refugees to get their feet on the ground and find a place to live and find some work. And they're even housing some people there. And so he had gone to talk to the mayor about that and about how the mayor could help them in this project. So this man gets involved, and I think that's a good thing that we're helping support him a little bit and now and then to help him in his work. He showed us this new building. Well, it's the first floor of this apartment building. It's the whole first floor of the apartment building. The sign he was really proud of, they just got the authorization to put the sign up. And he was showing it to us from the angle there, and around the corner, there's this sign on the window that gives us schedules and contact information. He showed us the classrooms. There are two nice classrooms there, one there, one there. There's a small office, there's a small kitchen, there's a storage area. It's just really, really a good locale for a young church. Here is the meeting place with all the nice chairs they've just gotten. I'm really jealous when I see this picture. Wish we could have had something like that in Lyon. One of the members made that cross up there on the wall and one on the table. He was telling us about how all this came about. Really, they're getting some good work done there. The next day, they took us to Kaisersberg, which is about probably the most famous city in that village, essentially in that area of Alsace, which is a wine growing area. You can see it here. It's all over the fields, all over the hills. All that yellow is vineyards. And the villages just sit in the middle of all of this. Here's another example of that. I think that's Riquevier. I'm not sure. But if it is, it's where we went a few times while we were in Lyon to have a family retreat. Not the white family, I mean the church retreat. Aaron lined me up for this photo. I'm really proud of this photo. He stopped the car just so I could take this picture, just at the right place. We had just been up to see this church on the top of the hill, where since the 1500s, Protestant and Catholics can worship in the same building. Not at the same time, but in the same building. And there's another little catch to the arrangement. If you want to be buried inside the walls, you have to be Catholic. And the Protestants will be buried outside the walls. Okay. So we had lunch in this little village, a restaurant called the Restaurant Suzel. I'll show you some pictures of the meal we had there later on. Okay, so we went to a large supermarket in Colmar, and I thought that because it was a wine country, the wine section would be huge. But I found, when I compared it to what I looked at the other day at Fred Meyer, I don't think it was any bigger than Fred Meyer's wine section, so it wasn't as big as I had thought it would be. I wanted to show you this fuzzy picture of, these are magazines, and the reason I wanted to show this picture was because I took this picture down one side, but there were as many magazines on the other side as far down the other way as this. I didn't realize the French liked magazines so much, but they apparently do. And then I put this picture in for certain people in our congregation who might recognize the author on that second shelf from the top. And remind you that he is being translated into French as well. I'll leave that on there for 5 more seconds, and then we'll go on. Okay, this is the bedroom slipper aisle. All the way down to where that guy or girl is standing, that's all bedroom slippers. That's the German influence. Yes, I wanted to show you this. This was a friend I made, but I didn't get his name. He didn't talk to me either. He just smiled. Okay, then we spent a long day with the Palmers talking about their work, talking about their family, talking about the things that they have run into that have been good and some not so good. I don't have a picture of that time, so I'm just showing you here a couple of pictures of downtown Colmar. But the Palmers had just gone through COVID, as we had, but they didn't have anybody around. And France and Switzerland and Germany shut down. You couldn't go out in public unless you had a piece of paper that said you had a right to do that. And you only had like 2 hours if you wanted to go to shopping or somewhere like that, or a pharmacy. You had to have an authorization. And you had to be sure it was official. And if you were checked and you didn't have it, you were in big trouble. So you couldn't get out. And she was having her second child during this time. Her mother couldn't come. Nobody could come help take care of the other child while she was doing this, while she was in the hospital. They had a rough time. They had a really rough time. And from their description of that time, it sounded like that time kind of toughened them a little bit. Not that they were not tough already, but it taught them more about what it's like to work in places where nobody's there to help you. They're really good at that already, but that helped them a lot in that way, although it did hurt them while it was going on. They were having a rough time. So they do appreciate all of you and this congregation for the help that we've been, and they say so in the letters that they write. So that next morning then, I had the privilege of preaching to the church in Colmar. There were about 30 people present, although they're not in all of this picture. Several in this picture were Ukrainians who'd come to France looking for work and for a place to live, and several in this picture are not Christians. A lot of them weren't, and so that was an interesting time. Afterwards, we had a kind of a what would you call that? A meet and greet, a little bit of a snack and something to drink, something to eat. A lot of discussion going on around the tables. It was really a good time to get to meet a lot of people that way, and to find out where they were in their spiritual lives. This picture represents probably what you might call the core group there at Colmar, the ones who are doing most of the work with the Palmers. And then this is one picture of just ourselves, Pam and me, with the Palmers and those two beautiful little girls. The next day, or the afternoon of that Sunday, we went over to Bâle-Mulhouse Airport, which is right on the border of France and Germany, and there's even a Swiss section. And if you go down the wrong hallway and think you've made a mistake and want to come back, you have to go through customs. It was terrible. We didn't do that, but we heard some stories about that. I've never been in a more confusing airport than that place right there, really. But I'm going to pause right now and talk about food. And I'll tell you why. Because before we left, everybody said, enjoy the food, enjoy the food, enjoy the food. And since we've been back, everyone has said, did you like the food? Did you like the food? So I asked one of the elders for permission. He gave it to me. He didn't ask the other elders that I know of. So I hope we're okay here. I'm going to show you some of the food we ate. Okay. And I brought a list. And Pam had to help me with this because I'm not real good about culinary stuff, the names of things. In fact, I may not get it right here, but anyway. This is what they call a croque monsieur. It's a melted ham and cheese on toast. But this one is open. Usually they close them. But this one had a salad under it, and looks pretty good. That's a crêpe salée, a ham and cheese crepe with salad. Okay. There is a crudité, sliced vegetables with quiche. Crudité. Do we say crudité in English? We do? We do. Okay, well, that's what that is, crudité. Here's a steak and potatoes. There's a bœuf bourguignon, which I think we call a beef bourguignon, don't we? And there's a salad with a fish, some kind of fish. These are mostly just home-type meals. These are not fancy meals, restaurant meals. I'll show you a restaurant kind of thing here pretty soon. There's a pâté, which is just kind of a little bit of meat that you eat before you start your meal. When you look up the word pâté on Google, it says a little meat, a little fat. Here was my favorite meal the whole time, a salad, a Munster salad. Munster's cheese, kind of a German cheese, a kind of a strong cheese. Munster salad with bacon on the salad and with toasted, it's really good. It was really good. Loved that. Here's a baked chicken breast. Now, this was one of Verlene's specialties, and I told you the first couple, she's a really good cook. Verlene's special. This is baked chicken breast. Here's a roast chicken with scalloped potatoes and spinach, another thing that Verlene has fixed us. And here's a lentil salad, another one with a lentil salad with sausage that Verlene also prepared. And then we have some scalloped potatoes with beets and meatballs. Okay, there's more. This is the pastry. This is my favorite pastry. It's called a chausson aux pommes. It's a fried apple pastry. It's really, really good. Here we have some, you know what a croissant is, and raisin, what's called pain au raisin, bread with raisin. And then there's a couple of coffees there with milk. Then we have what's that? That's a Belgian waffle, right? Let me check my list here. I think that's called a Belgian waffle with, I'm going to find it here. Yeah, a Belgian waffle with fudge sauce and vanilla ice cream. Yeah, that's, all right. And there's another crepe. It's a sugar crepe with vanilla ice cream. And here's a flan. Now, this is a restaurant here, a dessert in a restaurant, a flan, with a chocolate flan with raspberry sherbet. And this is in the same restaurant, tarte tatin, which is apples that have been caramelized in butter. Doesn't that sound good? And it's usually, it's an upside down thing. It was discovered that way. They were making an apple thing, caramelized, and the lady was carrying it to the table. She upset it accidentally, landed upside down. They decided to eat it that way, and that's the way it was invented. So it's an upside down, old caramelized pie, I guess. All right, so here's a cheese plate. Remember Loic I told you about that I prayed with and who took some of those pictures? At that potluck that we had, he brought this plate of cheese and vegetable or fruit, I guess. The ladies had brought the apple pie that's over there and the blueberry pie. Loic brought these cheeses. So let me just see if I can identify some of these. This is either a double crème or a brie. That's a camembert. How many of you like blue cheese? Blue cheese. Oh, good, good. I think blue cheese, you either love it or you hate it, right? Blue cheese, that's good stuff. I don't know what those are, I'm not sure. This is, I think, a Tome de Savoie, and there's a Swiss cheese. What kind of a Swiss cheese is that? Gruyere. Okay, so. And then coffees. The coffee on the top left, and I guess that's the only one, is a creme with just coffee with milk. The others are espressos. And then, of course, this is my favorite dessert as well. You can get this in the States as well, can't you? Chocolate mousse. That's lovely stuff. Now, I wanted to tell you now that I've shown you all those things, that I actually lost 2 pounds. I did. Almost a whole kilo I lost eating all that stuff. And you know why? Because we walked everywhere we went. We walked a lot. So, all right, so I hope you're satisfied. You've seen all the food we were eating, and we lost weight anyway. Okay. So this is an extra section. Pam and I personally added another section to the end of our trip. We wanted to go to Scotland and visit a couple that we've known for 30 years who were, how shall I say this? They were there for us when we were going through a really rough patch. And now they're in the rough patch. So we wanted to go and spend some time with them, talk with them, help them out as much as we could. So that's what we decided to do. This couple has visited here. They visited some time ago. It's been several years now, 2018. We were to go on EasyJet. When we got to the airport early in the morning and waited for 2 or 3 hours for this plane that was supposed to take off at a certain time, it wasn't ready. We found out it didn't have a pilot, so we waited for a pilot, of course. And it didn't have a crew either. But when the pilot arrived, I could have sworn he was about 16. But when I looked more carefully, I could tell he was actually probably closer to 17. But he knew how to fly this jet, so he got us where we were going. We went from Bâle-Mulhouse to Edinburgh on that day. Edinburgh, as they say in French. And we were met by the Carters, Dick and Ann. This is an older picture taken in 2019. they're going through some rough times, and she's had some pretty bad medical conditions. So is he right now. So they're having it's a tough time for them. And so what we did first, straight out from the airport, was we went for coffee, right? You want to count the cups on this table? How many? 7. Count again. There's 2 right here. All right, 7 cups of coffee on the table. All right, and then for the few days that we were with them, we had a supper every night with the whole family, their extended family. I mean, the older Carters and their extended family. And I think it was a really good tradition they have. They always eat together in the evening time. They have their responsibilities spread out, and everybody knows what they're supposed to do, and they just realize it's 4 minutes after 6. So I'm almost done. Just wanted to show you, not yet. So this is the elder couple here. Their daughter who came to Lyon in the 90s, and we met them that way. She came to be a nanny. This is her husband, David, their sons, Cameron, Finley, and Mary Rose. Then the older couple here, the Carters we went to see, and then you know who that is, I guess. And then we had, more times to go out and have coffee. How many on this table? How many do you think? 9. There are 9 if you look carefully. 9 cups of coffee on this table. Okay, so that Sunday when we were in Scotland, right before we came back home, we worshipped with a church in Livingston, Scotland, and they had a beautiful service. It was beautiful, meaningful. It was really great. And afterwards, they had a social time too. But I want to point out to you this screen in the front. In the front, there are 3 screens. There is one screen that has 3 pictures. The one in the middle shows, this is for the people at home, what they're seeing, right? What the people at home are seeing is the guy that's up front, and they are seeing 2 pictures of the auditorium. They see who's in the audience. And I won't go any farther or suggest anything. Okay? We went from Moscow then back to Frankfurt, into Denver. I'll make this quick, but I do want to tell you some things about that trip. Everything went wrong on this trip, coming back. We were always dropping things, losing things. Having to go down 6 flights of stairs carrying luggage was stupid, dumb things. But we got to Denver, and we were getting ready to get on the plane. And a couple next to us was having kind of a lovely conversation. He bent over, and he dropped a gun. So I said to Pam, that was a gun. And she just sat there like she didn't hear what I said. But she knew what I said, because she knew it was a gun. She saw it too. So I kept saying, that was a gun. That was a gun. That was a gun. And so what do I do? Should I say something? What do I do? Okay, we decided we would talk to somebody at the airport, some personnel. And by that time, they were getting in line, and he was getting ready to get in on the plane. And I said to an attendant who was getting on, do you know that man up there has a gun? She said, no. And I said, well, do you have some way to check that? She said, we do. We can check it, and I'll be back. She came back, and she said, as you probably suspect, he was an air marshal. Probably who would have been fired for dropping his gun in an airport. He was very embarrassed. His wife was furious for his dropping his gun, we found out later. He apologized to me personally in the plane. We were right across the aisle. He reached over and said, I'm sorry about that. So, yeah, okay. Well, I felt better about that. But he was an air marshal and not somebody who wanted to. Anyway, he was apparently sent to secure the plane, and I watched him watch people get on the plane. Nobody got on that plane that he didn't examine very carefully. I don't know if there was some threat or something, but he was watching people getting on. Okay, Denver. We stayed overnight in Denver. Came back to Boise. Our car battery was flat. But I have a little charging package in the back, and after I got to the back, because I couldn't get the back doors open because the car batteries, so I had to climb over seats to get to the back, and finally got the thing going. Anyway, I think our roles in this trip were teaching or exhortation. Some congratulations were due, some encouragement, some consolation, some advice, and maybe some places a mix of all these things. We didn't, as I said, People didn't come from far near to hear me speak, but we did have chances to talk one-to-one and two-to-two with people that we love, we worked with for a long time, and it was really great. It was a really, really great trip, and so we thank you all for letting us go and for being so interested in what we were doing over there. Now, it's 6:08. I know this is not the kind of lesson that calls for an invitation, but we all know that the invitation is always open for anyone who wants to respond. If that's your case, then we're going to sing this song of encouragement now. Thank you very much.